he will speak about the problem of tiger conservation. And if you have any points from the audience, please do raise your hand and take the mic and speak.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I'm Rinder Kumar, working here in Bangalore as Assistant Conservator Forest for the past 2.5 years. And as I worked in Nagarode National Park for quite some time. Even much before I joined the department, I was working with Dr. Ullas Karand as a tiger research assistant. So I've worked in Nagarode as well as in Madhya Pradesh forest doing tiger research in early 90s. So coming to conservation of tigers, as Sir said, though it looks so nice to read and watch wildlife, the conservation as such is a very tough task, and it's very difficult task given the staff strength, given the vast area of forest that we have. If I only speak about Nagarode National Park, it's about 640 square kilometers of area. So the tiger numbers are increasing after having given a very good protection by the forest department, as well as the cooperation from the adjacent villages and all that. So we have a very good increase in tiger population. When you have a good number of tiger population in a given place, that means all other herbivores, the prey population like deer, sambar, or gaur, or we call it Indian bison. So all other species of these prey species are in very good population. So these prey species in turn supports the population of the tigers. So it's vice versa. When you protect a good population of prey base, and you have a very good population of tigers depending on these prey species. So when I speak about, I was also involved during 2001 and 2, relocation of tribals from forest area. So we have two kinds of tribals since the documentary that we just witnessed is speaking about the tribes who are residing inside the forest. For example, here in Nagarode, we have we don't have soligas that we have it in BRT, that is Biligiri Rangana Betta Tiger Reserve. We have Kadu Kurubas and Jenu Kurubas, and we have two different kinds of tribes, but they do stay inside the forest. And many of these forest tribes are brought into the forest earlier days during in 1900s, because we wanted to raise teak plantations. So we were taking off a lot of timber from the forest for all kinds of purposes. We used to supply it to railways, industries, even Vishweshwaraya steel industry in Bhadravati. So all kinds of these timber and charcoal and everything was being supplied through these forests. And while we were cutting all this timber and forest, we wanted to regrow the forest. So we involved a lot of tribals in it. So these tribals are brought in from fringes of the forest and made to settle inside and given some space for them to have their own agriculture crop. With that, they are supposed to take care of the forestry crops as well. So we were having, we used to settle these kind of tribals inside the forest, and these people have been staying since those days till today. And many of them have refused to come out of the forest because of their own reason, because they do get a lot of facilities to go by nearby coffee estates for their daily labor. So suppose in this hall, we may put about 100, 150 people. How many can fit here in this hall? Can we put 100, 150 more? Who says 200 could be put here? Likewise, if I want to put about 500 people in this hall, it will not take it, right? So similarly, we have the same kind of extent of forest land that we are left with. After all the areas, we have taken it for agriculture, industries, roads, dams and all that. So, but the population inside the forest, say the tribe population, is increasing slowly. But the area given to them is the same, right? Or the extent of the national park or the forest is the same. But you have a growing population inside. So when we talk about tribals, there are many people who would urge for their development. We need to give them the hospital facilities, school facilities, roads, electricity, and whatnot, and schools. So, if we want to do all this in a restricted area of forest, so we will definitely be getting in with wildlife. So, to have a balance between a wildlife population and a conservation of these wildlife with tribal population, I think it's a very magic balancing act to do. So I was involved in Nagrode to bringing about 200 families out of the forest area on their own. Like we had an agreement with them on their own agreement, their acceptance. We relocated these people outside the forest, but we still have a lot of tribal hamlets inside the forest who are settled inside, and they every day they go to nearby estates for their labor. I mean, they go for coffee picking and all the agriculture activities nearby. So in a way, the poor coffee estates much depends on the tribals who are residing in Nagrode National Park, in the fringe at least. So thereby, to contain a population of tigers, now we have much more grown population of tigers and all kinds of wildlife. And you may be reading in paper, many a times we have many forest animals. For example, elephants are coming out, tigers are coming out, they are killing the cattle outside. So we are facing quite a lot of problem right now. And we do have a huge barricade of fence. So we have a railway barricade all around the national park. So it has become a kind of a big safari. The national parks have become big safaris where, whether we like it or not, we have to restrain or contain the population that is going out of the national park, because it's creating a lot of problem with the estates, farm lands. So how do we contain them? So we have erected a big barricade of a railway line all around the national park, creating a safari, a big enclosure for animals. So in one way, we have just stopped these wild animals going outside the park. The other way, as I said earlier, we still left with the same extent of Nagrode or any given forest area for that matter. It's not only in Nagrode, in Bandipur, in BRT, in Bannerghatta that we have in Bangalore, we have all barricaded it. So we have a compounded area restricting movement of elephants and tigers and all other animals for that matter. Whether we liked it or not, these animals used to go out of the forest for their grazing. And we have corridors of connecting to two different areas of forest. So there existed old corridors for all these animals to cross over. And thereby, many of these animals were getting into conflict with human. Now all the population is contained in the big enclosure like a safari. Now in coming days, we are already facing the same problem of high number of population of tigers and as well as elephants. So the habitat get destroyed within the given population and given extent of a forest. When we contain the whole population of wildlife, we tend to lose on habitat, because you have an exploding population of wildlife inside a contained area. We face hell a lot of problem, and I'm sure in coming days we will have to talk about culling of these elephants. That will be too hard for us to take it, since we religiously pray. I mean, we are related to much of our religion where we pray for elephants and tiger and all animals are divine in Hindu culture. So it becomes a big challenge in coming days to talk about culling of elephants. But it's already there. So when we go to Coorg district, they talk much about culling of these elephants, taking the extra population, the carrying capacity of an area. So if we think only a particular extent of forest would support a particular number of tigers, the excess tigers or excess elephants may have to be killed in a natural ecosystem to sustain it on a sustainable basis. So at the same time, having tribals inside, tribals as such, they are not destructive on forest. Their dependence is very less when we compare it with our dependence on forest. For example, they used to collect honey, they used to collect berries like gooseberries, bark, and one we have many kind of some kind of bark for medicine. So for their own consumption, it is very less. But when you have an exploding population like us from cities, from nearby towns, where we have so much of demand on natural, produce, which is coming from forest, like honeybee, honey, bark, and if any one of you go to Nilgiris, Nilgiri store, you get, in Kannada we call it Marapachi. It's a kind of lichen which grows on the tree, where in BRT, Bidigirangan those soligas are allowed to collect these lichens, which grows on the bark of the trees in the forest. So I was surprised to see a well-packed, in a grocery shop like in Nilgiris, you could get that Marapachi or lichens, which is used for some masala purposes. So our lichens now, like how large population can consume it. There are societies meant for these collections, which are given by the tribals, who are allowed to collect these are called minor forest producers in forest. So they are allowed to collect these lichens, they are allowed to collect this honey, and also some kind of bark, as well as some berries like gooseberries. So when you have a large population which depends on, or which we want to have so kind of forest produce, how much those produce could be given to a larger population like us. So it is not the tribals who are destroying the forest, like we, the demanders, the city people. We want to have these kind of, who will not like forest honey for that purpose. When we go to nearby forest, or when you go to Bandipura, I'm sure that many of us will demand, ask a driver or a tribal to give us a bottle of honey. So with so much of demand, it's so difficult to sustain it. So that is how we are, in a way, fueling the demand through tribals, because they have access to these kind of produce, but we are the consumers. So we in turn are encouraging for over collection of these produces. So to balance these act with the conservation of wildlife, it's quite tricky. It's quite difficult. Recently we had a very good act in 2005 called Forest Rights Act. It's under this act, the tribals were allowed to have a stretch of land which they were cultivating as their right to own it. So recently, because there are many other tribals, other than tribals, like us, like we, the people who are residing nearby the forest, there are also, those guys are also involved in encroaching of these forest lands. Posing with the tribals, they also have a kind of right over that land under this recently brought out Forest Rights Act. So if you consider the applications that we have received by the tribals, could be about 50,000 applications in the whole of Karnataka. And if you compare the other population, like any one of us, it is 1.5 lakh applications. So basically, this act was done to protect the tribals in the forest. But we as common citizens also want to have a piece of these forests, piece of this land. So the applications are 1.5 lakhs compared to 50,000 of the actual tribals who are residing in the forest. So how do you balance it? So there is 1.5 lakh applications by common, other than tribals, I should say. So when you compare, it's a big chunk of land that we will be losing it. So there are many applications which we have rejected it, and we have to evict, as per the Supreme Court recent directions, we have to evict this extra 1.5 lakh of applicants, which are not eligible as per the Supreme Court directions. Thank you.
So Ravinder Kumar has given us a bird's eye view of the problem of conservation in India. The relation between the grand material on which herbivores depend and the carnivores which depend upon the herbivore. This equation, if it is upset, the whole wildlife population and the wildlife conservation goes into a dizzy. Now, the problem is for tiger to survive, it requires a very large tract of land. You have actually right from Madhubalai and then Nagarode and then BRT, Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, and goes to Tamil Nadu. Is a very large tract of land. But all this is, the corridor has been broken up by settlements and developmental activities and so on. The migration of animals over this wide area is all. There's a reason why population, the elephant migration corridors have been destroyed and they enter into human habitations. And tiger, even a single tiger requires, what is the square kilometer request for effective survival? I think something like nothing less than about 30 to 40 square kilometers. That is the area that single tiger requires. Now the tiger population is increasing and the area of forest is shrinking. I mean, it could be a very difficult matter to conservation. Now, the priority of the government must give priority to wildlife conservation. The first thing they have to do in Karnataka at least is to restore the corridors of migration. And if you can spend crores of rupees, hundreds of lakhs of crores of rupees on development like this is also a very important part of development. If we lose a forest, if we lose, the tiger is the symbol and the sign of the presence of a good tiger population. It is an indicator of the soundness of the ecosystem. If the tigers are vanishing, it shows that herbivores are getting affected. Herbivores are getting affected because your green cover, the natural diversity is getting affected. So tiger is an indicator of the soundness of the ecosystem. So unless we protect these, we're going to have a very difficult future in the subcontinent. Now, the Western Ghats is the source of all great rivers, and if you destroy the Western Ghats, then the subcontinent will have the water resources all dried up, and all your development activities, which give least priority to the wildlife conservation, will itself be self-defeating in the long run. Now, what can the citizens of India do? Citizens of India can be aware of these problems, and the public opinion, if you take interest in following this conservation news and issues, and if you air your views in behalf of conservation, and development should not be at the expense of environment, ecology and wildlife. If the public opinion is generated in a big way, it will have affected the government in bringing about changes in the policy in favor of conservation and not sacrifice on the altar of it. Now, I request Mr. Bhagesh just 5 minutes to give his perspective.
Somebody want to ask some questions?
My question is little. See, you said there is exploded the population of tigers.
We have just 5 minutes.
Five
We don't have much time.
You are talking about explosion of population of tigers in wildlife. I'm taking a contrary view. As a tourist, whenever we go, at least I have been completely unlucky in all my visits to see a single tiger, with so much of rates going up every year by year on the safaris. But you say there is explosion of population of all these animals. Why is it that it's really not seen? It's only seen by very few people. How do we agree for that? Because the second reason is if you take the western or the northern tiger reserves or Tombo, very small area, very small, but whoever visits it, they are able to see that even in the movie Menon has made, she finally could get only in the Rajasthan forest, the Queen. Nothing from BRT or where we have the maximum population, 400 plus out of the entire India. But generally we can't see. Is there something wrong with people who see it or something which honest wants to hide it from themselves?
No, it's not like that. Many people see a lot of tigers when they visit Ranthambore National Park, Tiger Reserve in Rajasthan. But here in southern part of India, the sighting of tigers is not that easy compared to, it's an open forest that what they have in Ranthambore. It's a small area of 300 square kilometers. Here we are talking about 640 square kilometers in Nagarode and 840 square kilometers in Bandipur National Park. So many people go there, visit, and have seen tigers many times. I'm sorry that you've been very lucky for not having seen one. But there are people who visit for an hour, only for 1 hour, and they would come running with, dancing with having seen a tiger. Many times when we are driving on the inside Nagarode, on a tar road, on the main road, I've seen many times with cubs.
I should take your name next time.
Yeah, probably.
Running out of time.
Ranthambore is not connected to any tiger reserves. Maybe now it is developing towards Kela Devi.
Normally, see, Kanha people say, in Odisha, right?
Khana is in Bandhagar and Madhya Pradesh, MP.
But
So
whether it is Dandeli or the Bandipur,
see, our Bandipur and Madhumalai and all these are connected to Tamil Nadu, Kerala and other places. So we have the gene pool is good. Whereas in Ranthambore and Bandhagar, the gene pools of the tiger is going on because of the inbreeding and the breeding between the siblings.
Now we have to stop here, please. Last question and very brief. We have just 2 minutes left. Make it brief, please.
Yeah. So my question is more about the impact of tourism on wildlife. I know I think tribals is also one thing. It's a great discussion that we need to have whether tribals are helping or not. But the impact of tourism, because Ranthambore clearly those tigers are used to tourism. But I think we are lucky to have wild tigers, real wild tigers in Karnataka, which is great. But I would really like to understand from you, experts, on the impact of tourism on wildlife.
Yeah, yes.
So we are pretty sure that many of us go to any nearby forest in the weekends, right? So nowadays you have plenty of people driving to Nagarode as well as Bandipur or BRT or Bannerghatta because Saturday, Sunday you can see the Mysore road is fully packed, jam-packed. So you have many tourist pressure on these parks now. But we have contained the people visiting inside. We have only limited buses now, with limited people are allowed to go in on first come first basis. So thereby, by calculating the carrying capacity of a place, we have restricted the entry of these tourists. Thereby, we've been lucky for so far to contain the tourist population. But unlike in North, for example, you saw it in the documentary where people are just almost, they could touch the tiger, right? So you can never do this here in Karnataka.
Thank you. Mr. Manish? No, I think we are not trying to. Yeah, please. Yeah, give your perspective.
See, we are both with Karnataka has a major wildlife. Maybe we have added 3 more. Maybe Malay Madheshwara Tiger Reserve recently added to Karnataka. Now the forest is under severe pressure, maybe with the forest fire. A lot of herbivores is damaged because they may migrate out. Maybe the tiger population need more prey bases as Rinder has said. So now it's a time for the forest department to rethink to what saplings we have to plant. So we may need more volunteers to join us in joining hands with developing forest or conservation of wildlife and nature too.
Very brief. Very brief. 1 minute.
So it's a pleasure to have you all here, gentlemen and ladies. So my question is, according to you, what is the message which you want to give to the people who are living in the city in order to conserve wildlife and tigers? From an actionable point of view,
Take a lot of interest in forest and wildlife issues, become aware of the problems, and your public opinion will have a great impact on the policymakers. That's the greatest contribution you can make. Second, when you go on visits to, the national parks and all that, or conducted tours, please make sure that there are too many people visiting or driving through the area. It have a tremendous disturbance of wildlife, and the wildlife, become used to people and it loses its natural instinct. So all this will be kept in mind, and if you keep these issues in mind, you will be a responsible wildlife tourist. And most importantly, as I already said, become aware of the issues of wildlife and forest conservation, and your public opinion should have an impact on the policymakers. That's one of the things is restoring the corridors. If that is achieved, a great service would have been done in the cause of wildlife. But difficult thing, but not impossible. What coming in the way is lack of political will. It's only through public opinion that political will can be changed. That's the best contribution we can do. And now I request lastly, no more, Mr. Rinder to finally give her summing up and her impressions.
That's why I make films, so I don't have to talk. It's just really a complicated issue with the people encroaching on the last 7% of wild country in your country. And the same thing is happening in America, and I'm sure all over the world, is that people are demanding too much of the last sacred areas where animals exist. So we have to be the caretakers of our earth, because the animals sure don't have a chance. When you have so many people going out with guns for fun, just killing animals, or building things, or even tourism, I think, is a problem. So I think Mr. Ramaprakash is totally correct, but only we, the citizens, can unite and change policy by voting for the right people or making laws that protect everyone and nature.
Thank you, Rinder. And we come to the end of the program. So, on behalf of the World Culture, User World Culture, and all of you, I propose a word of thanks. Thank you to Rinder. Look at her interest. Soon after working over the university, she didn't care for her career and all that like we do. She on a backpack, she was off on foot and visited so many countries. When she came to India, you know, the passion for wildlife conservation. And she's right. If you destroy the tiger, like symbol of the soundness of the ecosystem, we have destroyed all this. She's very right in that, and she's focused on that. Thank you, Rinder, very much.